Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Hong Kong and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel a good few times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last little while, quite a few different styles, and if people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say that they're both pretty solid all round and they're becoming a bit more experimental in recent times according to a lot of people. But the beer we're going to have a look at today is a style that I know this brewery can do very well. It's a style that I very much enjoy and one that seems to be regaining a little bit of its former popularity actually, so for me that's something very, very positive. Most of the beers I've reviewed from this brewery thus far have been part of their kind of more experimental and special releases. I'm not 100% sure if this one is a core beer or a special release, but I have heard that it is very good. So yeah, needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this one's going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head across to Hong Kong Island. We're going to go to the south side of the island to Wong, Chuk, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from Black Kite Brewery. So this particular beer is called Too Many Dollars. It comes in at 8.8% ABV and this one is a double IPA, and from what I've been told this one is more of a West Coasty, big malty and bitter double IPA. So yeah, needless to say, I think this will be pretty good. I love my West Coast double IPAs, and I know that Black Kite Brewery are very good when it comes to the kind of more malty, oily, slick, bitter mouthfeel, so I've got a good feeling about this one. But yeah, let's crack on then and see what this beer has in store for us. This is another one that I bought at the Islander over in Chung Chau, who they really know their stuff. Go and check out that place if you get the chance. I'll put the link to their Instagram and Facebook in the video description for you below. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Black Kite Brewery before, and we will no doubt add more to that list in the near future. Like I said, I want to work my way through their core beers over the next wee while, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Hong Kong playlist along with a number of other things. That's being added to very regularly, of course, but do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from the different countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Black Kite Brewery once again then. So, Black Kite Brewery, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Wong Chuk Hang on the southern part of Hong Kong Island, and the brewery was founded back in 2014 by brothers David and Daniel Galley, both of whom were born in Hong Kong, but their family hails originally from England. So Dan originally studied mechanical engineering at the University of Pennsylvania in the US, and he went on to work as a software engineer, while David studied economics at Boston University and then worked in compliance in the finance industry. But Daniel left the company in 2019, and David continued brewing but teamed up with Tom Turner of Neon Cider, who's originally from Dorset in England, and so his cidery is the first cidery that opened in Hong Kong. But he also used to brew for Young Master Brewery and is now the head brewer of Black Kite Brewery, while also still running the operations for Neon Cider. But in 2020, Black Kite rebranded to change the logo to a more simplified design, but they still wanted to stick to the elements of that they were showing of Hong Kong before. But over the years, these guys have continued to build up the brewery infrastructure and build up their sales, but they are still a very small operation. I'm not sure how much they produce per month or whatever, but I know these guys are pretty damn small, but doing very good beer. But the name of this brewery is taken from the black kite bird, which can be seen quite commonly in Hong Kong, and as of July 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 60 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Black Kite Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on and actually have a little look at the beer itself. So I'll just let you have a wee look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. So as you can see, you've got your 2 Hong Kong dollar coins on there, which is quite interesting, or 2 Hong Kong dollars I should say, get my word order right. You can see plain silver top on the can. This one is 330 milliliters incidentally, and it tells you a wee bit about the beer on the back there, which we'll come to in a minute, but this is the kind of thing you'll see on most of the Black Kite beers. Just that nice kind of little handwritten sort of thing, and yeah, the Black Kite symbol is kind of like that. But yeah, on the side here it says featuring Talus, Sabro and Equinaut hops to create a gushing tropical fruit bomb of pomelo and grapefruit, a lavish and bold double IPA that finishes with hints of coconut and caramel. And it says the double IPA series boasts big and bold beers that are a nod to hops, meticulously crafted to create a symphony of flavour without any rough edges. This series is the pinnacle of our brewing acumen. Sounds quite fancy. But yeah, the hops in this one we know quite well. All 3 are American, Talus, Sabro and Equinaut. They're all about 14% alpha acid if I'm not mistaken. Talus might be a little bit higher than that, but Talus is going to give you that kind of pink grapefruity character, quite pungent from what I remember, and also a little bit of coconut. Sabro is going to give you a more tangerine orangey character, and again it's going to give you that coconutty character. And Equinaut is quite strong in terms of its limey flavour actually. But yeah, this should be quite an interesting one to try. So too many dollars, a double IPA, 8.8% ABV, high IBUs on this one as well. It says 88 on the can there, so probably going to be a proper old school West Coast IPA this one. So let's get it out into the glass and see how we go. Very, very curious to try this one. When I think about it, I don't know if I've ever had Talus and Sabro in the same beer, because if I remember rightly, Talus is a daughter of Sabro. I think it was bred from Sabro, which is why it still has that kind of coconutty character to it. I don't know what it was bred with along with the Sabro, but yeah, pretty sure that is the case. But yeah, anyway, you can see we've got the beer out and into the glass now, and before the head disappears, we can see that this beer poured with just under a finger of quite a foamy and bumpy, I would say perfect white head there. Let me just bring that up so you can see. So some medium-sized bubbles sitting on the surface of the liquid there, and it gets a little bumpier the further up that you go. But colour-wise, this beer is pretty nice. It's definitely a West Coast IPA going by appearance as well, so we'll come back to that in a second. But yeah, it's got a little bit of a natural haze to it, which you can see if I put my hand behind the glass there. But yeah, the colour of this one, I would say it's a nice kind of bright deep straw golden yellow. Remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. 1, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar is caramelised, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect the colour as well. But yeah, you don't often have to care about that with IPAs, to be honest with you. Not too much in the way of visible carbonation with this beer. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass there, and a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head. But yeah, you can see that head has faded away to just be a very kind of thin, foamy layer there. But yeah, one of the things to point out about West Coast IPAs is, for me, there are kind of 2 ways these beers can go. They can be a little bit more oily and caramelly in their malt base, such as the Sierra Nevada Torpedo. That's probably the benchmark for me on that end of the spectrum. Or they can be a little bit more kind of bready and biscuity, such as the Russian River Pliny the Elder. That would be the benchmark for me there. Just my point of reference, of course. You guys might know different ones. But yeah, this one, just judging by the colour of it, I think is going to be a little bit more bready and biscuity. The caramelly ones, the more caramelly leaning ones, tend to have a bit more of a blood orange colour, rather than this more blonde straw type colour. So yeah, we just need to see how that actually comes out when we taste the beer and look at the aroma. I don't think we need to say anything more about the appearance of this one. As I said earlier, not too much in the way of visible carbonation, bit of natural haze. These are all things that you would expect of the West Coast IPA style. So yeah, let's have a little look at the aroma of this one then and see what it's all about. I'm very, very curious about this beer. Ooh, yeah, it's actually a little bit more malty than I thought it was going to be. I'm pretty sure there's Maris Otter English malt in this, and I think it's using one of the more old school yeasts as well, maybe like US-05 or something. There's something just very, very familiar about this beer and very old school. So either Maris Otter malt or US-05 yeast. Yeah, got a feeling it might be the yeast, to be honest with you. But it smells really nice, this one, quite nostalgic actually, and I like it when we get beers like this. This has definitely got a wee bit of nostalgia in it, but the thing that gives it away with that is just the way the breadiness comes out and the kind of biscuity and caramelly notes that you have out of this. There is just something very, very familiar about this this particular beer, and I think it's something I have seen with the Black Kite beers before. So they can, in the Hong Kong craft beer scene, these beers, if you're handed a beer and told this is from Hong Kong, you can usually tell that it's a Black Kite beer because they like these kind of yeasts and these kind of malts and things. Yeah, but aroma wise, this is nice. It gives you everything you'd want from the West Coast IPA, although I will say the green component on this one and the fruit and stuff isn't all that pungent. It's more malty lean in the aroma of this beer for sure, but I love it. Okay, so let's just take that aroma and break it down a little bit and describe it more in depth. So the backbone of this beer for me, you've got some nice kind of wholemeal brown bready character in the base there. There's a bit of bread crust for sure, a little bit of woodiness, potentially a little bit of cracker in there, but yeah, kind of wholemeal sweet brown bread, lovely white bready character as well. Yeah, lovely white bready character in there for sure. I just want to say there's Maris Otter malt in this. It really wouldn't surprise me. And I think the yeast, I do think maybe both US-05 and Maris Otter yeast, just the way the white bready character is and that sort of almost bread and buttery type aroma that you get in the malt base of this one is making me think that it's really something like that that's going on in here. So yeah, you've got sweet brown bread in there, a kind of sweeter white bready character. And on top of that, you start to get the brown sugars. For me, the brown sugary side of this beer, there's a little bit of toasty caramel in there, but then you have a bit more of a kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing coming out of this beer. And that's really interesting as well. Yeah, the Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing is quite prominent in this one, and that combined with a little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit that's in there is really what's making me think that this has the Maris Otter malt in there or the US-05 yeast. I think this one, there is a little bit of a straight up caramel in the middle of the nose, but yeah, more Werther's Original butter candy and a kind of biscuity type character coming out of this one. So yeah, the way the aroma kind of pieces together in this beer, I think, is really interesting. The malty side of this one is nice, and definitely in the back of the nose, the yeasty character that you get is a mix of like white bread and brown bread, and it's got a wee bit of crackery character to it as well. So yeah, the way everything goes together in this one, I think, on that side of the beer is really nice. So let's go to the hoppy side of things then, because if you take the aroma of this beer in like a little bit more deeply, you start to get more of that green component coming out of this one. So yeah, the thing to remember with IPAs is that you have three kinds of hoppings with these beers. So you've got early addition hopping, which takes place within the first hour of the wort boil. That gives you mainly bitterness and a deeper, danker aroma. Late addition hopping, which takes place within the last half hour of the wort boil. That can give you a little bit of bitterness, but mainly flavour and aroma. Dry hopping is the one that takes place after the wort boil is complete, and that one gives you mainly flavour. It gives you pretty much all flavour and aroma, and a sort of lighter, green component, a more bright green component in terms of your aroma as well. So West Coast IPAs use all three types of hopping. New England IPAs tend to rely on late addition and dry hopping, which is why they're kind of softer and more juicy, and the West Coast IPAs have got that little bit more depth and dankness to them. So yeah, with this beer, I would say this is quite an interesting one because it's obviously quite heavily dry hopped and stuff as well, but the green component isn't too pungent in this one. It's only if you take the aroma in really deeply, like really breathe it in, that you'll start to get some of the kind of dankness and things out of this one. But the three hops in here, they are capable of giving you that deep dank character if they're added in the early addition stage, which they obviously have been if there's 88 IBUs in this. I don't think you could get that bitterness otherwise. But yeah, the green component in this one isn't overly deep and dank, which I'm surprised about. But yeah, the earthy side of this beer, there is a little touch of earthiness in the green component there, but yeah, you've got quite a bright floral aromaticity to this one, and it's quite oily as well, but I think that's quite in keeping with the way the malty and yeasty character in the beer is. But yeah, you've got a lovely kind of green component with this one as well. So yeah, lovely kind of grassy component I meant to say there, sorry. You've got like a wet, freshly cut, oily, grassy nature to this one. Nice floral aromaticity. And then you've also got, there's not even really a piney resin note to this one, maybe a tiny little bit of it, but yeah, a little bit earthy, a little bit herbal, tiny bit of pine resin, nice floral aromaticity, and a good oily, like wet, freshly cut grass coming out of this beer. Yeah, I think that covers the green component, to be honest. Let's round off the aroma section with a look at the fruit. So yeah, for me, fruity side of this one, it's interesting because I get quite a bit of lime out of it. So the Equinox is the obvious candidate for that. The coconutty side of things, I mean, you can smell a little bit of that, and it comes out in the top of the nose at the front. But yeah, lime for me. I think there's a wee bit of an orangey character to this one as well, which is going to be the Sabro. And yeah, there's a little bit of, I get like a wee touch of like oily pear or something out of this one as well. And then at the back of that, you do, in the top of the nose, you get some of the more pungent, kind of bright grapefruit, pink grapefruit, I would say, from the Talus. I've always found that Talus doesn't have the really strong, pungent grapefruit that you get from the likes of, you know, Chinook or Cascade. So yeah, the way that all of these hops go together in this one is quite interesting. It really gives you a big, soft, juicy, oily sort of IPA, I would say. So quite interesting from the perspective that this is obviously a West Coast double IPA. So as I always say, take a little bit of time to just enjoy the aroma of that one before you get stuck into it. I think this is going to be a really quite nice beer. So yeah, this will be good. This is Too Many Dollars, an 8.8% West Coast double IPA from Black Kite Brewery in Wong, Chuk on Hong Kong Island here at the Hong Kong ACR. Let's get stuck in. Dry throat there. Slàinte, skål, and cheers. Oh, yeah, that's pretty good. And I tell you something, the green component in the flavour is a lot more apparent than what the aroma would have you believe. The aroma in this one's quite interesting in that sense, that it's the green component takes such a back seat. So, for me, this beer, it kind of is giving me the flavour profile that I thought it would from the aroma in terms of the malty and yeasty side of things, at least, and the fruity side of the beer as well. The green component is a hell of a lot more powerful and punchy in the flavour of the beer than it is in the aroma. So that's definitely a point to make about this beer. But yeah, it gives you everything you want. You've got breadiness in there, you've got sweetness, a deep dank character, and also some nice oily fruity character as well. So yeah, I like it. Yeah. So on the Yeah, where do we start with this one? Definitely a bit nostalgic, this beer. I like it a lot though. Yeah, takes me back. So, middle third of your palate then. The backbone of this beer, you've got that lovely, kind of smooth, well, not so much smooth, a little bit of that grainy, brown bready bread crust in there. That's forming the backbone of your beer. As you move further forward on that middle third of your palate, there's a little tiny hint of woodiness in there. I very often get that. Potentially it's just my palate. But above that, there's a little smattering of cracker, I would say, like Jacob's cream cracker. Then you've got a wholemeal, brown bready note that comes out of the beer, which I think is really, really nice. So yeah, lovely kind of wholemeal, brown bready character coming out of this one. And then on top of that, you do get a little bit of a white bready character. And as I say, there's something about the bready side of this beer that is just familiar. It's just very, very familiar. So yeah, the bready side of this beer is something that I really, really quite like actually. On the bready side of things, as I say, I'm still wondering. I think there is Maris Otter in this, but I think there also could be US05 yeast, or maybe it is another familiar one. It could be the Cefal. Was it 06 or something like that? As I say, it's an interesting one. This is one of the things that I like about the black kite beers. You can kind of tell from the sort of flavours and stuff you get out of these. They just have a little bit of rawness about them, and that's one of the things that I really quite like. They've got a bit of an old school rawness about them, so you can tell they're brewed on quite a small system, which I know they are. But yeah, anyway, we covered the bready character in this one. So we said the wholemeal brown bread, the white bread on this one. Then above that, you get a slight layer of like a more toasty caramel, I would say. And then above that, you've got a kind of big circle in the middle of your palate. Yeah, there's a kind of big circle in the middle of your palate there, and it's kind of like above the toasty caramel, you've got that Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of note about the beer. And then in the dead centre of your palate, you can feel that slightly stronger caramel, and that obviously is the boozy part of the beer coming out there, and that's the concentration of your alcohol flavours. But above that, you've got that nice kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity type character coming out of it. So yeah, the way that goes together, I think, is really quite nice. So yeah, the way that everything goes together in that middle third of the palate, I think, is really nice. Yeah, let's have a little look at the back third of your palate. So as I often said, the back third of your palate is going to give you similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, just at different intensities. But yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate is quite similar. So yeah, you're just going to get the flavours at different intensities. But yeah, border region between middle and back third of your palate, you can feel there's a little bit of brown bread there in the middle, the white bread on top, and a wee bit of bitiness above it all. But yeah, the base of that back third of your palate, you've got the bread crust in there, which was a little bit lighter and more grainy. Above that, you've got the more kind of crackery character. Then you've got the wholemeal brown bready character sitting above that, which is a little bit lighter and more airy, of course, but it still has a slight degree of sweetness to it and a wee bit of dryness at the same time. Above that, you've got the white bready character, which again feels a little bit lighter, more airy, and just that little bit drier as well. And then yeah, above that, you can feel some of the toasty caramelly notes just creeping over the top of that back third of your palate. Then above everything else, you've got the yeasty side of things coming out of the beer. So yeah. But yeah, the hoppy side of things in this really does grow the more that you drink of it as well. But yeah, the yeasty side of this beer, as I say, there's something just very familiar about this. It has at the core of it this kind of sweeter, this kind of sweeter wholemeal brown bready character. And then as you move away from that, you start to get a layer of a kind of white bready note, and then the edge of it is like more of a a kind of white bready, toasty, bread crusty sort of thing. So yeah, all of the way that all of that goes together in this one, I think, is quite nice. And definitely you can feel on the back third of your palate, the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it condenses down that little bit more. But yeah, let's go on to the green component of this beer then. So back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, you get a little touch of herbal character out of this one. Then as you push further forward from that, you have that nice kind of floral aromaticity out of the beer. But you can feel there is a bit of a pine resiny dankness to this one. It comes out more into the aftertaste. But yeah, nice kind of floral aromatic spice in there, I would say. And round the front curve of the tongue, the beer is just that lighter, that little bit lighter, more grassy. But the grassy character has a wee touch more zestiness to it. And I think out of the three hops in this one, it's most likely the Equinox that's going to give you that zesty character, in honesty. So yeah, that's the green component covered. Let's go to the front third of the palate then, and the kind of fruity side of things. So yeah, the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of that bready build up in there. The brown bread in the base, the white bread on top. And then the base of that front third of your palate is more about the, you can feel the brown bready bread crust again, the sweeter brown, kind of, yeah, quite dense and sweet brown bread there, the white bready character. Then on top of that, you've got some toasty caramel for sure. So yeah, a little bit of toasty caramel in there. And then above that, you have just the kind of nice oily bubble, where that juicy fruity ester kind of the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. So yeah, let's look at that fruity side of things and see what we're getting with this one. Yeah, if you know these hops, it kind of gives you what you'd expect. I would say, actually, I'd correct what I said earlier and say above the toasty caramel there, you do have a wee bit of that Werther's Original in the base of that, sitting on the base of that front third of your palate too. But yeah, the fruity oily bubble, there's a good little bit of that stronger grapefruit in there for sure. And as you move further forward in this one, I do get little hints of like an oily pear and sultana and things. But then yeah, as you reach the middle point of that front third of your palate, you can feel that it changes quite distinctly. You've got some nice oily, juicy orangey character coming out of this one, and that big sort of limey character coming out of it. So yeah, that's the Equinox and the Sabro that's giving you that. The pink grapefruit's coming from the Talus in this one, but you can feel, they always say that Sabro and Talus are going to give you a little bit of a lingering coconut. You do get a little bit of that just under the front third of your palate there, so that's definitely evident in this beer. But all in all, the fruity side of this one's quite nicely balanced. You've got your limey citrus, you've got your orangey character, and then you've got your stronger grapefruit in this one too, and then the wee bit of coconut underneath. So I really like the way that everything just kind of pieces together in this particular beer. So it gets a thumbs up from me. So I think now we can round off with a wee look at the mouthfeel with this one. So yeah, for me, mouthfeel wise, this beer is this beer for me is kind of top end to mid bodied. I wouldn't say in terms of the West Coast IPA, it's not the most chewy and oily one, but it comes across as a little bit more clean and slick in a way. Carbonation is present, but not overly present, if that makes sense. So yeah, top end to mid bodied at most. Little bit of carbonation, but yeah, slightly oily and slick. We know the IBU in this one is calculated at 88. Would I have guessed that? Not sure. I think I maybe would have guessed about 80 or 90 IBUs with it. So, because the bitterness in this beer really does build into the aftertaste. But like we said, the malt base has a little bit of kind of dryness underneath, the sort of bready smoothness in the middle, and the kind of more oily, dry sweetness on top. And the fruity side of this one is quite oily, and like I said, you've got a good citrusy zestiness from the kind of lime from the Equinox. You get the stronger, more pungent stuff from the Talus in this one, I would say, and then yeah, you've got that more juicy, oily orange from the Sabro in the beer too. So yeah, this is a really interesting one. I've really enjoyed this beer, and it's quite nice and easy to drink. Certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this again, but I think we need to look at some of the other beers as well that these guys do. But Black Kite really shine on that more kind of malty, yeasty yeah, that kind of more malty and bitter, clean sort of thing, like quite old school beers. And as I say, these feel a little bit raw and old school in my opinion. I'm pretty sure there's Maris Otter and they've maybe used US05 in this as well. It just feels very, very familiar, this one. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this review. So yeah, this one was the Too Many Dollars, an 8.8% West Coast double IPA from Black Kite Brewery in Wong, Chuk over on Hong Kong Island. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Black Kite Brewery as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the very near future. But until the next time, Slàinte, Skål, cheers, check out my social media, check out Black Kite's social media, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao just now.